What advice do you typically give to dancers who struggle with stage fright?
Your body is doing this to help you prepare.
Hey guys, welcome back to our YouTube channel. Today we're going to be talking with Kirsten Kemp, the confident dancer on YouTube, and we are super excited.
Kirsten is a former professional ballet dancer. She is now a high-performance coach who helps dancers break through mental challenges.
Today we're going to be discussing how to build up a confident dancer. So we are here with Kirsten Kemp. We are so excited to be talking with her about confidence, all things dance. We're going to be asking her a bunch of questions, picking at her brain, and we're really excited to get into it and learn from you. The first question is, in your experience, what are some common challenges dancers face in terms of confidence?
Okay, so I love this question because whenever I speak to dancers about how to build confidence, whether I'm coaching them individually or going to a big school to speak to a group, I always like to start with what stops us from feeling confident. Because what I noticed from my own journey and then also coaching tons of dancers from all over the world, I think our biggest block is that, number one, we misunderstand what confidence really is and where it comes from. When I ask okay, what is confidence to you? Or maybe I'll ask a big room of dancers. Usually there are crickets. And then I'll hear something like, it's feeling good about yourself. It's the feeling that comes when you get a compliment or accomplish something. And it's like, yeah, there's some truth in that for sure, but confidence is really just the feeling of being sure about something. Or in other words, the feeling of assuredness. That's really what confidence is at its most basic level. When we understand what it actually is, then we can acknowledge the other block, which is how do we get it? How do we build that feeling in ourselves? The biggest blocks I see are the misconception that it comes when you are perfect to some degree. Like we think, oh, when I look like that dancer, or get the contract, or win the competition, or after I deliver the performance I want, then I'll feel that way. Or when I get the compliment from the teacher and I'm one of the favorites. We don't often say that necessarily, but a lot of times that's how dancers actually live this out. I can't speak for everyone, maybe it's not 100% true all the time, but when we think confidence is a feeling that comes from these more external measures of success that are at best partially out of our control, we'll always be like grasping for this feeling of like, I want to feel confident or I want to believe in myself, but it's almost like we can only feel that after we've achieved this thing. Maybe you get a good job from the teacher and you're like, yay, confidence. And then it kind of starts to go back down, maybe when you don't get as much attention, or yay, I got the part, awesome. Maybe during a season where your casting isn't as great, it starts to dip down again. My philosophy is that when we know how to actually build confidence, even in the lower moments or the kind of lull times in our training and careers, that's when we are going to be more able to take that action with that confidence to get to the next mountaintop moment. What stops a lot of dancers is just misunderstanding what it is and the actual path to tapping into that feeling.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's really good.
Have any of you guys felt that before where you're like, yay, confidence? And then it's like,
All the time.
And I used to experience that too. So I was like, what? I heard all this advice, like it's so important to believe in yourself, but when times were tough, it's like, how?
The next question is, can you share some strategies or techniques you found effective in helping dancers boost their confidence?
Definitely. So a really basic way to start with building confidence, since all it is a feeling of being sure about something, is to focus on a few things. What you can do to move towards whatever results you want. Like focus on that action, that one next step you can take. Instead of focusing on maybe your doubt of, will I get there? Or thinking about maybe the past when you messed up that pirouette sequence that now you're worried about that happening again on stage. You can focus on, what is the one thing I can do, whether it's exhaling in my plie or really holding my arms or my back, that will help me have a higher chance for success. If you're thinking about becoming a professional dancer and you experience some self-doubt around that, focusing on, well, what are some things, and actually list it out. What are some simple, practical actions I can take on a daily or weekly basis that do help me to move towards that goal. It's so simple, but so often we fill our minds with thoughts of, well, what if that doesn't happen? What if this doesn't happen? We focus so often on what is not in our control or the challenges rather than on the action that is within our realm of influence that we can take. So I say, focus on the simple things you can do to move towards the direction you want. The other thing is focus on what you do have. So often we're like, oh, I don't have the feet. Oh, I'm too short. I don't have the height. Or I'm too tall. I'm not this or that. We can focus all day on what we don't have, but how is that really going to help us? I recommend that dancers make a list. I do have not only this skill, but this potential. A lot of dancers feel like, oh, what do I actually have when they go to make that list? At least you can say, I have the potential to grow in this area, this area, this area. As long as you focus on what you do have, that's going to be a much more constructive use of your time and energy. The last thing is focus on what is going well. I love this principle of measuring success backwards. Instead of saying, once I perform this role, then I'll be successful. It's like, okay, it's great to have ambitions, it's great to have vision, but if we say that is success, we're subconsciously implying that we're not successful. Success is what you've already accomplished. When you look at how have I grown? What am I able to do now that I wasn't able to do last year? That is success. Look at what you can do, what you do have, and what you have done. That is evidence for your mind that you are moving forward. If you fill your mind with that as a practice, it's going to help you tap into the state of confidence.
Yeah, and I think what you're saying, sometimes people are so focused on like, this goal that I want feels so far away, and they don't really think about like you can get there if you day by day take those little steps to get there.
Yeah, and this practice helps you to stay focused on the process, not just the end goal too. If at the end of a class you can be like, you know what, it felt really good that I started with kind of a bad attitude and by center I was into it. That's a win.
Yeah, I think that really helps you like bring it back down a little bit, because I feel like sometimes your head's always like so far away, like, oh, this and that, but it's like you have to stay like more in the present moment. What advice do you have for dancers who struggle with comparing themselves to others and feeling inadequate? This is definitely something I've struggled with in the past, and I feel like it's very common.
Yeah, it is, and there are so many different things I can say about that to each individual dancer I talk to. When you're experiencing the feeling of inadequacy, I always find that there's a lot of value in defining our terms. Well, what does it mean to be adequate in your mind? Drawing those maybe deeper standards that you have in your mind to the surface can then help you to question that and say, well, am I expecting myself to be the best dancer in the room, to feel adequate? How will I know when it's okay to feel good enough? Like, what are the times in my past even where I felt that? Then you can kind of start to not only let go of maybe some unhealthy standards you've been holding yourself to. We're all going to go through times like this, so asking yourself, well, what do I expect? And then redefining what good enough can mean for you right now. And a great way to do that is actually asking yourself, how do I want to feel in my journey in this moment? What are some things I can focus on in class to just help me appreciate the fact that I can dance? I find it tremendously valuable to ask dancers questions to help them understand themselves deeper, and that's where a lot of transformation happens.
I feel like sometimes when you're put in that place of hardship where you're like struggling, it makes you appreciate like the moments when you do get the opportunity.
Yeah, totally agree.
How do you encourage dancers to embrace and learn from failures or setbacks?
So this is where I like to teach the art of reframing. Reframing is just, it's a very basic technique, but honestly, when you get good at it, it makes life so much better. It's a tool commonly used by coaches or mentors, therapists. Taking a situation, understanding the meaning you're making out of that situation, and changing the meaning or interpretation in order to just have a more constructive takeaway. Let's say I had one client recently at a competition and he fell flat on his butt. We not only worked on mental preparation for that competition, but also working through reframing that experience after that happened. And actually, the default takeaway for so many dancers is, oh no, I failed. That's so embarrassing. And then we start thinking, oh, I bet this person thought this about me, and these people who follow me on Instagram probably thought, oh, he's not that good in real life. We can all go there. So all of those are just subjective interpretations. All that happened is, he did a little torture take, he fell, and then he got right back up and finished that variation like a pro. Instead of just having that default takeaway of, oh no, I failed, we can practice the art of reframing and saying, did you really fail? Or did you just show how professional of a response you had to that mistake? You actually just faced your greatest fear and showed yourself that you were able to move on. We all face times like that. So instead of labeling it as a failure, why not take this as an opportunity to tell yourself a more empowering story, and know that doesn't mean you're lying to yourself. Because how does it serve you to just be like, oh, I failed, I messed up, I should have done better. At the end of the day, you're really just telling yourself a story either way. Why not tell yourself a story that works for you?
Yeah, I have the next question, and this is something I definitely struggled with a lot when I was younger. What advice do you typically give to dancers who struggle with stage fright and performance anxiety?
I feel this one. I used to struggle with this so badly that I questioned if I should even dance professionally, because I was like, I hate performing. It feels so terrible. For dancers who struggle with performance anxiety or stage fright, there are a lot of different tools that I teach to help dancers overcome this. But I'll say one of the foundational ones is understanding that oftentimes when we've had a past experience, maybe something went poorly on stage, or maybe you haven't had an unpleasant experience on stage, but you just feel a lot of pressure, and so then it creates a sense of anxiety. What happens when this feeling of nervousness, anxiety, however you label it, when it starts to come up, I like to invite dancers to question what responses or reactions they immediately have to that feeling. When I used to experience this, and I've noticed this is true for a lot of dancers, I would start to get anxious about the anxiety, because I was like, oh no, last time I felt this way, I felt so wobbly on stage and I didn't perform that well, so it's probably gonna happen again. Not only are we assuming that the feeling will prohibit us from dancing the way we want, we're also oftentimes spinning out into a lot of what if questions. What if that doesn't happen? What if this bad thing happens? What if this catastrophe happens on stage? So what I tell dancers to do is, number one, that feeling of like jitteriness, some call it nervousness, some call it anxiety. I would say those are slightly different things, but it's a similar feeling. When you're feeling that, it's actually your body pumping cortisol and adrenaline into your body to help you, not to harm you. Your body is doing this to help you prepare for an intense, short-term burst of energy. These chemical reactions happen in your body to hone your focus in, because we all know that when we get into that state, our focus just goes like narrow, and we can focus on how it feels unpleasant, or we can reframe it to say, thank you, body, you're preparing me for a good performance. It can help the anxiety to at least stay where it is, if not reduce, instead of continuing to like build on itself. Practice coexisting with the feeling. You know what? I am going to dance with this jitteriness. Instead of having this mentality like, oh no, this is gonna mess me up. You are perfectly capable of dancing with that excess energy in your body. The other thing is, take charge of the negative what if questions. So instead of letting your mind just go, oh my gosh, what if that happens? What if that, turn it around. What if I actually have so much fun on stage? What if this goes way better than I thought? Those are such great ways to start to just transform that excess energy in your body into something that serves you.
I'm definitely gonna try that next performance.
How many of you have felt that like panic?
I think all
Definitely,
of us.
yeah, at some point. I'm the type of person that loves performing, but I do still get very nervous before going on. I usually definitely feel that way, like, why did I want to do this again? Like, I'm not sure. And then that feeling when you finished it and you're like, wow, I just did that. I accomplished like this hard thing that I was nervous about. Then it's kind of an addicting feeling and you're like, I want to do that again, actually.
All right, this is gonna be our last question, and it is, what role does pushing dancers out of their comfort zone play?
It's so important because going back to that idea, we need to have evidence built up in our memory bank to solidify certain beliefs. So often, if dancers either aren't pushing themselves or aren't being pushed, you just keep getting the same evidence, like all I can do is a double pirouette. And then it becomes a belief, like that's it, I'm just not that good at turns. I think a lot of us have felt this before, that when you encounter that teacher who's like, you know what, I see that you can do more than that. They're like, I'm not gonna let you do less than your potential. It gives you that push to overcome your own limitations and say, you know what, I'm gonna go for the triple pirouette. So it's incredibly important that dancers not only push themselves with an experimental mindset, not a perfectionistic mindset. When we have that experimental mindset, like, let's just see, let's try, let's go for it. And especially when teachers are creating an environment where they're like, you know what, we're all gonna do triples in this combination. It gives dancers the opportunity to see evidence that they're capable of more than what they thought they can do. I see people who are very well-intentioned just giving positive feedback all the time. That was good, you're great, which kind of turns into holding back from really pushing their dancers. And that actually doesn't create confident dancers. What happens is dancers actually stop believing their teachers. They're like, I don't actually think that was good. It's really important to be able to receive and also give yourself kind, truthful, but honest feedback to push yourself past what you think you can do. That's why I also tell teachers, give very specific praise. It's harder to do, it takes a little more energy, but that actually helps dancers build confidence because they're like, you know what, I do see that.
We had a rehearsal director and the combination was like, I want everyone to try and do a triple step overturn. And we were kind of all like, what? Like, that's not gonna happen, no. And he was like, no, like, for real, I want everyone to like actually go for it, believing that you can do it. And like, a lot of us still fell out of it. But like, I really thought it was cool what he said, and also after that, so many of us were just like practicing it in the back until we could get it.
I love teachers like that.
I think I was the first person who found you on YouTube. When I found your channel, I was really excited because it's really inspiring and it is actual helpful advice. I also listen to your podcast. I love the work that you're doing, and I know it's really helpful for all of us.
All this information was like super helpful for all of us, and I know it will be so helpful for all of our followers and anyone that watches.
Thank you guys. I really, really appreciate you having me on your channel. I really hope this encourages anyone else who's watching, and if anyone wants more The Confident Dancer on Instagram, YouTube, podcast, what is this? I don't know. See you guys. Bye.
Wait, can you see the paper? Yeah, you can. So oh, I can't remember all that. Oh! And wait.
Yay!
Should we say an outro?
No!
Oh.
Well, I wish kind of did.
No, I don't want to.